In this module, we will talk about the types of fermentation on the base of the product which we can made through fermentation process, and also on the base of the organism which can be utilized. Without the use of the organism, fermentation process is nothing, because as concerned the definition of the fermentation process, that fermentation is the mass culturing of the organism. As we change the organism, the fermentation can be changed. So in literature, you can consult the literature. Different types of the fermentations are reported with reference to the product as well as with respect to the organism types. So on the base of the product, you can see in the literature that sometimes some scientists use the term of beer fermentation, yogurt fermentation, citric acid fermentation, pickle fermentation. So there is no any fixed types of the fermentation on the base of the product. So just by the name of the product, you can call as any product, mean biogas fermentation, citric acid fermentation, as I have already, pickles fermentation, and there are so many others, food fermentation. We can also have a literature different names of tofu fermentation, soya fermentation, etc. So these different types of fermentation just on the name of the product which is formed through the fermentation process. So there are thousands of the product which is now industrialized, formed through the fermentation process. So there is a large and a vast range of the types of fermentation. As concerned the organism types and their name, so in literature we find that number of types of fermentations. As I mentioned here, that yeast fermentation, bacterial fermentation, aspergillus liger, or you can say that fungal fermentation. But these are the fermentation just based upon the group of the organism, mean yeast, bacteria and fungi. Even on other hand, yeast fermentation, in which we only focus on the yeast. Sometimes as here you can see in the third type, aspergillus niger, the same case, pseudomonas fermentations, lactobacillus fermentations. So as the organism changed in a fermentation process, then the fermentation type change. On other hand, when we talk about the organism, there are the fermentations when there is only a one organism of our choice which is required for the desired product. But in some sense, in some processes, more than one organism is also used, which we called as mixed fermentations. So the mixed fermentation, those fermentation in which the organism, more than one organism are used. So sometimes when we run our fermentation process with two or more organisms or a mixed fermentations, then that is called as mixed fermentation.